If you are still cooking on nonstick, what the fuck? It is time to switch over to stainless steel, and this is going to be the complete guide on how to cook on stainless steel. My name is Kelly from Kelly's Clean Kitchen, where I teach you how to cook in an easy and fun way, and this is my campaign to get you to switch over to stainless steel pans. But to start off, to know why you should be cooking on stainless steel, it's kind of important to know what stainless steel is. It's basically a metal that is resistant to rust, corrosion, and stains, which means it's super, super durable, scratch resistance. It's not gonna chip like a non-stick would. You can throw it in the oven, you can put it on the stove, you can even throw it in the dishwasher, and it's gonna be super durable. So I would say there's like 6 reasons you should switch to stainless steel. 1, the durability, like I said before. You can do a lot to this pan and it is gonna last you a lifetime. It's not gonna scratch, it's not gonna stain. You could scrub it with steel wool, it's not gonna chip. So it's very, very durable, and I had this pan for like many years and it looks as good as new. Number 2, they are completely non-toxic. Unlike things like Teflon or aluminum that are toxic and can be like a carcinogen of sorts, this is not. Stainless steel is very clean, very good for you. And even if you're cooking on something like ceramic nonstick, which claims to be non-toxic, the ceramic eventually wears down, and what's underneath? Aluminum, which is toxic. So ditch it. Number 3, stainless steel is a non-reactive surface, which basically means you can cook any food on here and it's not gonna have, well, like a chemical reaction to it. Unlike something like aluminum, if you cook like tomatoes or something acidic in aluminum, it's gonna taste really metallic-y and gross. That's not gonna happen with stainless steel. Number 4, it's gonna have even heat distribution, which is really important when cooking. So basically that just means you're not gonna have hot spots or cold spots when you heat it up. It's all gonna be one even temperature. So your food's not gonna burn in one spot versus another spot, or be like cold in a spot like other pans. Number 5, you can cook on super high temperatures. So this pan in particular can go up to like 1,000+ degrees. I don't know why you would need it to be at 1,000 degrees. Most like ovens don't even go up that high, obviously. But that being said, you can use it on a grill, you can use it in a campfire, you can use it on the stove, you can use it in the oven. Super versatile. Unlike a nonstick, you can only cook up to like 300 degrees, which is pretty low actually. And lastly, they are super easy to clean. You can take steel wool to this. You could scrub it with a bunch of hard abrasive surfaces and it's not gonna damage the pan. Unlike a nonstick, unlike an aluminum. Also, they're dishwasher safe, unlike a nonstick and aluminum too. Okay, so the number 1 complaint I hear from people when cooking on stainless steel is that things are sticking to it. And let me tell you, if things are sticking to it, you're just not doing it right. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how. There are 2 keys to getting your stainless steel to being nonstick, and that is 1, making sure it's hot enough, and 2, making sure you have enough fat. Now, to see if your pan is hot enough, we're gonna do what I call the water ball test, but more technical terms is the Leidenfrost effect, which I'm not really gonna explain the physics behind it because it's complicated, but all you need to know is when you add water to a hot enough pan, it will like dance on the surface like a mercury ball almost, and that's when you know it is hot enough to become nonstick. And the reason it dances on the surface is basically water vapors underneath it allow it to just glide on the surface, versus when it's not hot enough and it's a little too cold, it will sizzle out, which means that your food will stick. So to do the water ball test, all you have to do is heat your pan up over medium heat. About 30 seconds to a minute. Once it starts to feel warm, you can start adding drops of water with your fingertips to test and see if it is hot enough. Now, if it is not hot enough, water droplets will just sizzle out immediately, or once it's hot enough, water droplets will dance on the surface like mercury balls basically. And once it hits that point, you know it's hot enough. You can get rid of the water before adding the oil and fat. Now the second part of making it nonstick is adding enough fat. You just need to add like a tablespoon or 2, enough where it will coat the bottom of the pan completely. It doesn't need to be drowning in oil. It can just be a little bit all over before adding your food. And the last key part of adding this fat is that it needs to be hot enough before you add the food. If you add food to a cold fat in the pan, even if your pan is hot, it will stick. So it needs to be hot, and you can tell basically when you start moving the pan around and the oil starts like rippling and dancing, that's when you know it's hot enough. Okay, now it's time to see it in action. We're gonna cook 3 of the most notoriously sticky foods. We're gonna do a skin-on salmon, a halibut, and then eggs, all of which are not gonna stick to the stainless steel at all. Now, the key with seafood is that you have the food very dry. Moisture plus stainless steel is a no-go, it will stick. So I season the seafood, and then after I do that, I make sure to pat it thoroughly dry with a paper towel. Now for seafood, we follow the stainless steel rules. We heat up our pan hot enough by testing with the water ball test first. Then we add a fat and make sure it evenly coats the bottom, but we have to make sure that fat is hot enough before adding the seafood. And you will know because the fat will start to ripple just a tiny bit and smoke a tiny, tiny bit. That is when it's hot enough to then add the seafood. And then the third key is you let that seafood stay until it naturally releases from the pan. A lot of people will try to grab it before it's ready. Usually when you have stainless steel cooking with proteins like eggs or seafood, they'll be sticky at first and then they'll release from the pan. So let it take time sitting on the pan over like medium heat and it will naturally release. See, I haven't even needed to touch the salmon and it just naturally releases and then can slide all around just because of proper technique. Wait for a taste test.
Just the right amount of crispy. That is delicious.
I know. Now for a fried egg, it's a very similar process to the seafood. We heat up the pan, do the water ball test, and then we add the fat. Once that fat is hot, we'll drop the egg in and then let it sit there. You don't want to move it too quickly. Once the whites are completely formed, they will naturally release off the pan, and then you can move it around, flip it, whatever you need to do. Now, scrambled egg is basically the same process. We heat up the pan, do the water ball test, add the fat, make sure the fat is hot enough. We can add the eggs and then adjust the temperature accordingly if it's too high of heat, and then just stir, and it shouldn't stick at all. And that is how you get perfect seafood on stainless steel every single time. And if you found value in this video, make sure to like and follow for more.